Hey, Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross. I am here with Toksa Hour co-host Julie Twigo and with our special guest Jace Pratt from Sioux Valley, Manitoba, Canada. But I don't think he lives there right now because he said he's kind of nomadic. So, good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
So, gee, I thought you assist in Wapton.
Well,
So I was gonna talk to you about Siston Wapton stuff, but
well, I've lived there for quite a time, and yeah, so I've been there for a long time. So I have a lot of connections there, a lot of relatives there, and stuff like that too. So I'm pretty much connected to a lot of the different Dakota communities. And pretty welcome.
I have I'm Dakota myself, and so is Julie, but we kind of have some Lakota in us that kind of gets us to act up every now and then, the Oglala in us. But I have in my genealogy or in my family history, I have a story about my grandpa, one of my grandpas who used to be a Eapaha, and he would go from Canada to Minnesota delivering news. His name was Charlie Minnetonka. And so that's my only Canada story.
Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of people don't know too much about the Dakota in Canada, and but I was raised by my grandpa, my unka. We say unka up here, lala down there, and actually I'm very familiar with down in our Oglala relatives down south as well, and we're trying to break the barriers that separate us as Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, and to look at our similarities, our connections that we have with each other, and the different medicines that we used to share with each other as well. The medicines that we didn't have on the prairie, that was in the Minnesota spots, the marsh spot, the woodland area, different medicines. And so we kind of really needed each other. And so there was a lot of times where, we met up. And I always think, I remember coming down, when I go down the prairie down in Pine Ridge, one thing I noticed is the Dakota people, we'll all be sitting real quiet in the corner, just kind of down. We don't want to say too much, And then Lakota, gee, they'll be just talking, where are you from? And then they're laughing loud, and I was like, oh, I noticed our Oglala Lakota relatives, they're real loud. And I said, and I started thinking about, I wonder why. And then I said, if they're out here, they can see for miles and miles, thousands of miles out, you could see out different places, people coming on the prairies, different spots like that. And so you could be loud as you want, but in the woods, we gotta be real quiet, you never know who's coming, or what's out there, So I thought about the geographical differences that we have, our relatives as Lakota and Dakota, and how the land shapes our behavior, or who we are, because Dakota, Kunshi at home, when she used to say, shh, inina, you have to be real quiet all the time. But that's why I grew up like that, real quiet. And you can just hear a pin drop. If the tap is dripping, you'd be able to hear it real clear. Or you could hear the clock ticking away. Growing up in a house like that. So I always think about those, But predominantly though, one of my heroes have come from the Oglala, obviously Crazy Horse, that it was my hero, and when I hear the stories of him, it really helped me to understand the meaning of what and who we are as Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, And it sounded to me when you'd hear the stories of Crazy Horse, and you get a feeling of what we call Wo Dakota. You know, there's a sense of humility that comes, or like a reverence, like a silence or a strong connection with the unknown, you know, the spiritual realm. And you'll get a sense of somebody that has that connection. And when I hear the stories of Crazy Horse, and not just the popular stories, but the other stories of him, you know, coming home, and they'd say he'd be playing with kids, you know, like you hear stories of him being close with kids and stuff like that. And to me, that was a sign of Olakota, you know. So it developed a close kinship or a bond, I suppose, with a close relative of everybody there, you know, the Oglala. So, you know, that's why it's to me, it's a big honor to talk to the bloodline of Tashunkuitko's people. You know, like, to me, that's how I look at it. And, but yeah, I can go on and on. But my main message is that I share is about that Chanupa. That's I live by that very very uh, in a lovingly strict way, not a mean strict, you know, like the old boarding school residential strict, you know, you better do it like that, you better do it like this, you know, not like that, but the other kind of strict where it's strict compassion, you know, strict wa ohoda, strict wa onshida, strict wa okiapi, you know, you're always going to help, you always live by compassion, you always live by the idea of let people be as they are, unless they want to change on their own, then you help them, but to maintain the correct teachings that give you that sense of enlightenment. That's the whole idea behind it, you know, to undo yourself and to redo yourself in the teachings, you know, to really rebuild yourself with the knowledge that our grandpas and our grandmas they left for us, you know. And when the snow is on the ground, I said, last time I was supposed to come on the show last time, and I missed it. And there was family events coming up, and I got all caught up with it. Oh man, you know how family gets, you know, it's like real busy. And so that's how I was getting. I said, well, at least now there's snow on the ground. We could talk about some of those stories, you know, of our kunshis, hotunka kapi, they used to call it around here, is the hotunka kapi, the stories of our grandpas and grandmas. So at least now, you know, we could talk about, oh, bless you, bless you. At least now we can talk about Buffalo Calf Pipe Woman and all of the grandmothers, our spiritual grandmas. And so that snow that's on the ground, I got in trouble from Grandpa around here. He said, "Don't be telling those stories. It's when it's nice out like that." And he said, "You might get snakes in your house." or another one said, "No, you'll get a whole bunch of spiders in your house if you tell stories like that." And so I remember one time we were telling stories like that in one of the sheds, and I just had to bring up a certain spirit that we have in our stories. You know, just one of the old stories. Just had to bring that person up. And here all of a sudden a snake ended up in that shed. And so I was too scared to go tell stories in there anymore. So it's true. I really say, oh, that's true, man. You know, I'm gonna follow that teaching and wait until to talk about those stories, because I really believe that there's a power that comes from them. And so uh so uh, I made a commitment when I was really young. When I was about 5 years old, I went down by I know it's down there in Pine Ridge, I'll say creek, but up here we say creek because it's E. You know, if you spell it out, creek, it's E, which makes it E sound. So up here in the creek, up here in the creek, I was down by the creek, and I used to go sit down there because there was a we say a chapa, beaver dam that was there. And I used to sit by there, and there used to be water that would trickle out there. And my brother used to get like Indian paint from Powell. Geez, I'd really paint up, and then I'd get a feather like that, and I'd hang it on a long stick, and I'd find some kind of feathers. They won't let me play with eagle feathers. So I'll go get a whatever feather I'd find in the woods or wherever. And so, probably a pigeon or whatever I could find, and I'll put that on there. And then I'll go out, and then I would just sit there and I would pray, and I would act like an Indian, or in my Indian in my mind, like like the romantic idea of an Indian, sitting at one with nature. And here, Hechan, this is what happened with me during those times that I did that. I would get these spiritual epiphanies, and they would happen at a very young age. And I realized that there's a trick, and so you could see one of our elders there, Sitting Bull. They said he would often go off and be by himself in nature, and he would come back, and something that Crazy Horse used to do often as well, where you have to disconnect from humanity and you go off into the original creation. You have to go into nature, and you attune your energy to that nature, or that where the nature is. And once you attune yourself to that nature, it becomes a part of you, and all the messages that you need in your life will come from within. The vibration from nature soaks into you, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, your mind changes, or your thoughts change, and how you see the world kind of changes, and you'll get these epiphanies. And so it really made sense why Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, they would often leave the tribe for a time to go get answers. And so to me, that's what I always believed in. And I realized that the chanupa, the pipe, later on is an extension of that. And so I could safely say at this moment I'm a non-smoker at this moment. But when you go to a sweat lodge and like everybody's standing around having a changli, a cigarette, and you're just like, oh man, maybe just give me a drag, or you just want a puff of a cigarette because everybody's doing that. But there's a feeling that you get when you smoke a chandi, and you don't smoke a chandi all the time. And or like if you were to, I always remember seeing an elder smoke chanupa, and he would take 4 drags like that, and it's like big drags of the chanupa, and you would see him blow the chanupa. Now, if I did that right now, I'm gonna be like, and pass out probably, because I'm not used to smoking all the time. They get what they call a head rush. You get like this feeling of a head rush, and this feeling that you get, almost like it calms you, almost like it relaxes you. And what I've noticed is it correlates with that feeling that you get from nature. It correlates with that. And so I'm realizing that our ancestors, they sought peace. They look for peace because they realized that if you seek peace, you lose your body in a sense, or you lose yourself. And so that's kind of what I've noticed in Lakota, Nakota culture. It's about losing yourself, and it's not about gaining anything. It's about losing who you are. And so that's why, even recently I was on YouTube. It's real cool on there. They showed pictures of our ancestors from like the early 1920s and stuff like that, like old film and stuff. And it showed them dancing buffalo dances and like stuff like that. And I always remembered watching the traditional dancers, back in the day. And then when they really look around, just real quick like that when they're dancing. And then I was, oh, Zitkara se, just like a bird, just when they're dancing like that. And they dress like birds, right? They dress with the birds, and they dress like birds, right? And they act like birds. You know how they kind of really quickly move their heads around, our grandpas. And then you listen to the language, you hear that, you'd hear the language of our people, and especially the old language. And Hana, when you hear the old recordings, you'll hear them how they talk. You know, some of our grandpas, they still have that accent, or some of our grandmas. And so if, up here, if we're gonna say how are you, or how you be, okay, yao, and then so that you'd hear that bird go. You'd hear a bird out there in nature like that, and then you'd hear da 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 da. You'd hear that sound, and then you translate that and you put that into the language, and it okay, yao, huh? And so you hear that accent of the birds in our grandpa's talk. And so it's like, wow, all the epiphanies that are going off about our grandpas, and how they lived at a frequency. They lived at a certain vibration, and that vibration connected them with the land. And how they connected with the land was they lose themselves to the land. They in a sense, they give themselves to the earth, and the earth gives themselves to them. And it's a unification of body and earth. My body and the earth is my body, and I am the body of the earth. And then you transcend your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own mind, who you think you are. You lose, like, mine was Jace Pratt, which is not really who I am. It was a name that was given to me. I wasn't born there. I wasn't there at the birth to say, hey, yeah, that is me. That's Jace Pratt. Yeah, that's me right there. I didn't have a say over that, But one thing that I do have a say with is I can tell you for a fact that I eat the plant matter and I eat things from the earth. So I am the earth, and so I connect with the earth. And then I lost myself and I became the earth. And so that's the idea behind that. And that's what they call me, takewas, my oneness with all things. And then I realized that's what the Chanupa offers you. And I have one of my bros there, and he's originally from Standing Rock, and we were talking about Sundance one day, and he said something that was really kind of just, I never thought of that, And he says, our Sundancers, they're trying to get to the brink of death. They're trying to get to the point where they're gonna die, and you cross over to that other side. And you visit your ancestors on that side, and then you come back with messages and teachings from the spirit realm. And so you fast and you don't eat, and then in a sense your tizi and your all of your tanira is all dead. All your tanira dies. This is why after you tell those Sundancers, you guys better be careful. Your tanika is dead. You might have to run in the bathroom right away if you eat these grapes. Because you're dead. You're trying to die, and so you don't eat food, you don't drink water or anything. You get to the brink of death, and then you lose. When you die, you lose your body. You lose your body. You lose yourself. You lose your mind, you lose everything, and you become this transcendent spiritual being, and which has never been born and will never die. It always is, always was. That's the eternal, forever us, the connection that our ancestors used to connect to, where they weren't no longer afraid of death anymore, where all your anxiety, your depression used to go away, because you realize how can I fear everything that is me, because I am all. So it's not a matter of fearing everything, it's a matter of being afraid of myself. And so it's a matter of changing my own behaviors so that I'm not afraid of myself. And that's where the 7 values of the Chanupa come in, where it makes it where your internal world is a place of heaven within you with wa'ohoda. I accept myself for who I am. With wa'okiapi. If I need to help myself in any way, I'm going to take care of my spirit. I'm going to take care of my heart, my mind, my body. I'm going to take care of myself. That way I don't need to be babysat by anybody. I can look after myself, like that. And that word right there. That you notice in our culture, a lot of it has a lot of that shh in it. Up here we say tahashi, dekshi, kunshi, tunkashi da. And then you go in Inipi, you hear that shh, 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 and we connect to that, and then you connect after the round is over, Sundance, you hear that wind in the trees. Shh. That's the cornerstone. That's it's an important part of our culture. That's the spirit. Shkon. That's a spirit. His name was Shh in the beginning, and then Gam means old and became kind of aged, and so they say Shkon, Shkon. It's the spirit of Shh. And if you breathe right now, you'll hear Shka inside of you. So you realize that you and I are a part of Shka. And his brother, Tate, the wind, who is a part of us, is a part of us. It's impossible to feel alone in Dakota way, because all these spirits are a part of you. So it's impossible to be alone in Dakota way. There's no such thing. You're part of everything. And in Washichu world, you could be alone, possibly, but in this culture that we live is Dakota, Lakota, it's not possible to be alone. That's not possible. So all these spirits are in you. So the Chanupa, when she brought the Chanupa, Wohpe, or buffalo calf pipe woman, she brought an object that will help you to connect to her dad, Shkan. Her dad. And so this is a family operation from our spirits. They're a big family in the spirit world, and we're all a part of that family. And so every time we load our pipe or come together like that, we are creating a family reunion. Every time we do that, every time that one bowl and that stem comes together, you are creating a spiritual family reunion. And everybody that's there in that ceremony is representative of their tiwahe, their tioshpae, that brings them to that ceremony as well. And so they might get 6 people that are at a ceremony, but actually that's 1,000 and hundreds of thousands of people that are actually at that one pipe ceremony, because that one person represents a huge tioshpae in the spirit world, and that's your bloodline connection. And that's what the Chanupa helps you to return to, is your bloodline connection, your genetic memory. Most of us connect to our bloodline for the past 5 generations, but that's the trauma, the boarding school, the residential school stuff. What we need to do is go back prior to the pain and the trauma, before Wounded Knee, before the hanging of the 1862, the Dakota 38, before the rape and mutilation of the land and our people. Go back to that time, because we can transcend time. You can go to any time and close your eyes. How was it like in the beginning? How was it like 4 years after Buffalo Calf Pipe Reuben brought that pipe? Must have been beautiful. We can return to that time. And you soak up the frequency from that time and you bring it today. Yeah, that's pretty deep stuff, but that's pretty much how the pipe works. Geez, I just went off talking. I don't know if I was supposed to do that or what, but I just go off. But
it's always really good to talk and to listen. One of the things that you were talking about, like as Oglala, like we're always talking, always laughing, and that's true. I mean, we are. I mean, we try to not, because it isn't custom. It's not. Maybe that's our our boarding school influence or something where we can't control ourselves, so now we just laugh and tell jokes about everything and everyone. So you could be in the most traumatic situation, and out of that comes some funny joke, and everybody can't stop laughing, kind of like that Heyoka healing medicine or something, where but I often, as a teacher, I'm always trying to teach that with, when I was teaching younger kids, to listen, take time to listen, because you hear things. Go outside, listen. What do you hear? And I love how you talked about the meadowlark. I really love that. Like, I mean, it's true. I'll tell you, one time, this was last year, and it's just right before fall or cold or whatever. I could hear some birds outside, and I was like, what the heck? And I looked out my window right here, and there's a bunch of meadowlarks out there. And usually meadowlarks are here, and then the guy comes and he hays, and then all the meadowlarks leave because he probably destroys their homes when he hays. But anyway, so they were all out on just out there, but they were singing, but they were singing really quiet, like they were whispering. And I was like, what the heck? So I got up and I looked out my window, and they were just ground covered out here, and they were dancing. And I just was like, oh, it was so mad. And then I was just like, I was so breathtaken by it that I was like, afterwards, I should have got my phone and I should have recorded that. And then I was like, well, maybe it wasn't supposed to be, but, and I have elders in my life that have told me that too, that our language came from them. Mm-hmm. That's how we learn to talk. So
yeah,
I like that.
The main thing that I've always said is, like, I got a hint. I'm not a reader. Like, I'm not a big time reader, but what I do is I read quotes. I'll read, like, when you read a chapter, often what they're saying is probably about maybe one sentence. And in philosophy, they call them maxims, the big words. So basically I will say, so what are you saying? Get to the point. And with the advent of internet, I would go and I would read quotes all the time, and quotes from our ancestors. And one of the things that I remember reading was a quote from Hekaka Sapa, Black Elk. And he said, children are masters of mimicry. And he said they'll copy anything that they see around them. And later on, we started doing parenting classes where that was the base of Dakota parenting, was to behave in the way you want your children to behave, not to say it, but to behave how you want them to behave. And because they're gonna copy you in every way, they're gonna copy who you are. Many of us will say, my mom is this way. I'm not going to ever become like my mom. I'm going to become this way, or I'm going to do it this way. But we end up becoming our mom. We end up becoming our dads. We end up becoming, a lot of the patterns that they have. We take those in because of our ability to mimic. But really what it is a vibration exchange, right? We're vibrating, and the vibrations move our bodies in a certain way. And so you look at the Zitkara and you see them doing what they're doing in nature. Our ancestors used to look at a bird or animal, and they would get a feeling, and it would give them that feeling of wakan, whoa, wakan, like, oh, just like, it feels good. It feels loving. It feels like it gives you shivers. It connects you with something powerful. And what our ancestors used to do was they used to maintain their childlike ways, where they would say, let's do that dance. Let's a song and dance like that. And so next time he goes out, he'll do a move that he might have saw from that bird, and he became it. And all the people looked at him and they're like, "Oh, did you see that one dancer? You know, he did that. Wow, something real move, real wakan. You know, he moved in a way that was wakan, and it gave people a feeling of wakan. And but really, what he did was he just mimicked the wakan world. You know, daku shkan shkan. You know, da wamakashkan. Hana. He copied them, and he brought that to the world from there, and through dance and performance, and gave a narrative to nature. So nature had a narrative within the Dakota camp, and so yeah, now I always think about like um, you know how now we always say my grandpa taught me this, my grandma taught me that, and and I always believe in that. That's real good. The information that I'm always interested in is like, where did grandma get her information? Well, she got it from her grandma. Yeah, but where did that grandma get that information? Well, she got it from her grandma. Where did the first grandma get this information? And then all of a sudden I realized it goes back to some grandma that lived 6,000 years ago or something, that lived in nature and heard it from the very talking nature itself. She heard that information from nature. And so I realized that this information that we have now, bottom line, it's true, because we all learned this in university, the citation, where's your citations, where are you getting this information from? And that's one of the things that the university taught me to do, was to look at the source. And if actually you look at that word source, the word source is the word to sorcerer, or to like, if I'm a source of information, then technically I'm what's considered a sorcerer. I'm a sorcerer, right? And so the sorcerers are the ones that move the world, really. And so, well, who's a sorcerer? Well, in our culture, we have our own sorcerers. Well, who are those? Shka, Tate, Grandmother Earth. If you look at the head buffalo, then when they have their ceremony, the tatanka, they're with the ptech chaka. Ptech chaka, it would be the word for the whole herd itself, and the tatanka, and how the ceremonies they're doing their ceremonies, and how he's manipulating, and how the females are moving with the mothers, or I mean the calves, and there's a sorcerer in there, even the tatanka oyate, the Ptech Chaka Oyate, they have their own sorcerers. And so that the sorcerers are the ones that are moving your community for good or bad. And you have good ones and you have bad ones, right? And so the question is where is the source of the movement of everybody? What's moving everybody to do this or that? And so what's the source? Who's your sorcerer? Yeah, who is your sorcerer? That's the question. And so everybody that has a narrative, or everybody that's living a life, they're being controlled by a sorcerer in some way. And I always wonder, who is that, and where did they get their information from? And this is why in Dakota way, we remove the sorcerer. And the sorcerer instead will take you, and he'll put you on the hill to show you for yourself, so that the source of power and information comes from your own chante. That was the original way, because there was a story of our people learning revenge and bitterness. They learned that. And when it did that, it disconnected them from the spirit world, because they learned revenge. And that guy, he did this to me, or I'm gonna go over there and slash his tires, that kind of thing, or oh, that guy, he's not even taking care of my family, I'm gonna run in there and I'm gonna ignore his family now, or something in the leadership. That's all revenge tactics that our people were taught by another sorcerer, another spirit that came from the spirit. And so if you know the creation stories, you'll be able to see the human behaviors that we have and realize that they're connected to those spiritual creation stories that we have. It'll make sense. And so we have a spirit of Nawizi. We have a spirit that represents that. We have a spirit that represents the feeling of revenge. And so when you see somebody that's vengeful, that would mean that person is under the influence of that spirit. And this is a spiritual reality that I live in as a Dakota person. I'm not so scientific and say, oh, his dopamines or levels are off or something. That's Washichu said. That's kind of, I'm Dakota. I see it in a Dakota way. How my grandpas used to say behaviors comes from the spiritual world. And so we look at how easily influenced we are by the spirit world. And so when I see somebody talking or hear myself talking, it's like, oh man, I can recognize Unktomi in me right now, because I'm really trying to be bossy and try to control everybody's lives and make everybody feel like they don't know anything and I'm better than them. And that's Unktomi, in our understanding. You say Iktomi down there, but Unktomi we'd say in our. And so and then you mess up and you learn not to do that. Then Unktomi will laugh at you at the end of the day, give you a hug and say, see, I told you not to do that. I told you not to do that. Now I had to make you do that for you to understand why not to do that. And now that you know that controlling people and being bossy is going to stress you out and make you upset, now that you figured it out, now you're smarter now. And that's what I'm here to do, is I'm here to give you wisdom, grandson, granddaughter, because I love you. I care about you because I'm connected to you, grandson, granddaughter. And that's Unktomi. And so you see a beautiful way of life that we have. And I live it 100%. My life is a spiritual reality. And that's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so when I see our people and what we're going through, there's a spiritual explanation for all of it. And it's brought me a lot of clarity. And that's my goal, is I want to share that with a lot of people, clarity, and how to identify spirit in your everyday life, because they're there.
As you talk about like the Western process of thinking and psychology, I in my doctoral work, I came across this study, and because I'm always grounded in culture and who I am, where I come from. And I was so flabbergasted to see, because my grandpa used to say this, that in our brain there's a place, like he would talk about balance, and he would say that there's a place in our brain that where we all have the capability to create or to speak to the creator. And there's a place in our brain that, like, we have to take care of our brain or be well. And he said that there's this place that where you can speak and everybody has it. And in psychology and research, I was reading some things, and I was just flabbergasted to see that place was actually found. And what's his name? The scientist with the crazy hair. He discovered energy. What's his name? Or he decided, Einstein. He's the one that found it. And he said, and it's real interesting because it makes the same, it makes that same, the place in our brain, it's that same symbol. And so I was just like, really, like, I don't know. Sometimes I read this stuff and I'm like, yeah, we told you guys this already. We already knew this, but it's really was really good to see that, because like my grandparents tell me something and then I go on the journey to find it, and then I'm always really glad to find it, and it just kind of makes my bond to them stronger. So I like that.
What you had said there, that image is that one right there. It's the same thing as the teepee, and it represents, there's a spot in the teepee where the spirals meet, and so when they make that spiral up into the teepee like that, and in the concept that Jesus was trying to teach to his people and to his relatives over in the Middle East was actually the same concept that we had in our teepee, which was the eye of the needle concept. And the eye of the needle concept means you have to go small. Chistina. You have to go chistina in order to get onto that other level of existence on that other side. And so where those teepee meet, those teepee poles, where they meet like that, there's a little tiny hole that goes through that. That's what you would consider that eye of the needle. And in order to get there, you have to lose your body again. And so that's what that chanupa represent, because you would see guys sitting around the fire like that, and it's so quiet, and they're smoking that chanupa, and you could hear that as they're smoking that chanupa, that sound. And that's that. And I heard a story where they said they used to put a piece of leather on the top of the chanupa that represented your the male dependence on the female, the drinking from the milk from mother. And so they used to put like a piece of rawhide to represent that at the top, and it taught men our vulnerability, are vulnerable. Now there's that vulnerability is not allowed anymore. You're not allowed to be sensitive. You have to be tight and tough, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to take a lot. But I believe that is actually a spiritual attack, because the more you make a person tighten up, the more their spiritual receptors close down. And so the more sensitive a person is, the more they'll be able to sense enemies in battle, the more they'll be able to sense the problems that are going on with their own family as a mother or a grandmother. They'll have like that sixth sense. But if you're tough and you have that that tough mentality, then you're not going to be receptive to spiritual energy, because you have to become sensitive in order to receive that. And so this is why inipi is really good for us, because we go in an inipi and it kind of loosens us. Everybody's coming in and they're flopping around on the ground, just like, and just like, and then you ask them, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And most often they're just not thinking or feeling anything. They just want to enjoy the breath. I just couldn't breathe in there. It's just good to breathe, and they're in a sense of appreciation and release of their in a sense of let go, and that's that feeling. So that feeling right there that we're talking about is that it's on that back of a black widow, and it's also on our beadwork, but it's about transcending realities, and they say as above so below. There's negative people in the world that are saying as below, as above, meaning they're going to try and make it bad here, like create a hell for everybody here on earth. But our mentality is to bring heaven on earth. And actually, that was supposed to be the concept of the Christians too, but a lot of them don't follow that. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is the Dakota philosophy too. That however it is with our ancestors, the peace and the love that they have up there, our job is to create that here too. That's why we're supposed to follow our visions, because our visions are the messages from the upper realm or the other side. And so the pipe helps you connect to your ancestors on the other side of the realm. And when you go to that side, the messages that are up there, we bring it down here onto the earth. And so this is why you hear stories of when, like, for example, when Black Elk had his vision, they performed it. They performed that vision and everybody supported it. There's nobody says like, oh, who is this guy trying to be, or none of that crap. You know, that's all crap. That's all people that are too afraid to do stuff on their own. They're too afraid to, and they can't stand it that other people are not afraid to follow. Well, we are afraid to follow our visions, but we have to in order to truly be the gift that, you know, when a baby is born, they say, oh, look, just a precious gift. When does that stop happening? When you're not a gift anymore, like 5, 10, 8, when you're just another person, you're not even a gift anymore. Just when you're a baby, you're a gift. But then now when you're older, you're just, yeah, just waiting for you to check out or something. But but like, we're, in my opinion, that little baby, that gift, we're all still that gift. And the only way that you're ever going to truly feel a gift, like you're a gift, is if you manifest your dreams and your visions that are given to you. You have to perform those. And there has to be more of a talk in your community, in our communities, that if somebody has a vision, not to attack that vision, because one day you're going to have a vision and you're going to want that same amount of support that person's getting. And I guarantee you 5 out of 10 of them are going to be false. They're going to be fakes, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the vision, and how you'll know the fakes is you just won't feel it. You just won't feel it. It'll just feel like a ritual. Like, okay, then you'll go home. But if a person's truly following their vision, it'll give you hair on your neck will go up. You know, you'll feel it. You'll feel that vision is real. Yeah. And the fakes, you'll just kind of like, pat on the back. Oh, that was nice. And then you'll go home. Your heart will tell you what's real and then what's not real. Well, I really believe, and this is the time that we're getting at, is it's a time to manifest our visions. And the vision that my grandpa's had for me is my grandpa gave me a name, Oewayakapi. They saw his tracks. And when I said that, I was like, does that mean people are going to be looking at my tracks and seeing where I'm going and seeing what I'm up to, just all nosy? And they said, I suppose, you know, like people are going to watch you, what you're doing. And then I realized, well, everybody does that to everybody anyway. We're all watching each other. And so while if people are going to watch me, then maybe I'll lead them to the Sundance. Maybe I'll lead them to the Sweat Lodge. Maybe I'll lead them to our way of life. Maybe I'll lead them to the Chanupa. If they're going to have to follow my tracks, I'm going to lead them to the sacred center, because that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the source, my sorcerer, that Chahadeshka, Chawakanki, hey, you know, that center, that sacred center tree. That's where I belong. You know, that's where you belong. You belong at that sacred center, not just the Waka people or the holy men or whatever, holy women. You belong at that center too. And you could hear it from your own words from the creator. You don't, the medicine person is only there to help you to get to that level. And so, and it's to remove your feelings of envy, jealousy, nawizi, to remove all of that first, to lose yourself. And once you lose your and Washichi, they call it ego. Once you lose ego or sense of self, then you pop out of yourself and you develop a higher level of consciousness where you'll have every answer that you need to heal your family, every answer that you need to heal your people, instant PhD, instant connection to the universe, tapping into the source, what they call the ethos. But the infinite knowledge that comes from the universe, it's there, and it'll talk once you open up to it. And this is the original Wi-Fi. This is the original internet that our ancestors had, and the Chanupa is the router. The Chanupa is the router, and it routes you to the right place, right? It connects you to the right energy. And so I will say this, instead of trying to figure out what your grandpa or grandma or mom or dad, if you have a relative that's in heaven, instead of trying to, look for messages in the wind and, do all this stuff and make guesses and, look for hints, become your mother for one moment. Become her. Enter her being and feel what she's feeling, or your grandma or whoever it is in heaven. Become them. And once you become them, then you become the message. You become the message. And Crazy Horse, Tashuke Wito, gave a hint before he passed away. And he said, and this is what he said. Now here's the hint. And so how do you connect to Crazy Horse? He said, go within your center. And he said, the light within you. Go with, hold on, I'm going to cry. Hold on. But anyway, this is how much I value our grandpas and grandmas. And he said, I will too. And he said, from there, we will become one. And so when you become one with your grandpas and grandmas, then there's no seeking messages anymore, because you are the message. And what those grandpas and grandmas taught was to give up everything, was to really almost become as you were when you were born. And you become stripped of all sense of ego, stripped of your name, stripped of everything, and you become one with everything. So I am no longer limited to Jace. I am the land. I am the trees. All these things, I am them. And then that's why when you look at, he said, when you see the Black Hills, try to think of me if you can. Because what that meant was, I am the Black Hills. That's what that meant. I am that. And so that's why our ancestors connected to those. That's why we don't sell them. That's why we don't, because we don't sell ourselves. We don't sell anything that we have. We don't sell your body, but we can sell our time. That's what we could sell. That's, like if you guys were to give me $100 for this, you're paying for my time. But right now, time is free. I always even say, one day Washichi are going to sell air. You watch, they're going to sell air. We went to go pump our tire the other day, and it cost us $2 to pump air into our tire. They sell water. They sell water. They sell earth. They sell land. And it's like a prostituting it out, right? They don't have respect for it. And so we don't sell anything like that. We don't profit off of people, or we have utmost respect for all living things. And that's our teaching, and so this is why, I really 100% follow Crazy. I say, if Crazy Horse was still alive, I would be living in his camp. I would leave this whole world behind quickly. And because they say he refused the white man things, the only thing he took was their gun and a few other things, but he chose to not a life of materialism. He didn't want a lot of that stuff. He said he wanted to still drink out of the buffalo horn. He wanted to still drink, he still wanted to eat soup out of the rawhide. You put rocks in there and it boils. He still wanted to eat like that. He still wanted to keep those things going. And then he saw over here, this family, they were gifted a frying pan. This family, they were gifted one frying pan. And now that, those sisters are arguing over that frying pan over there. I want to use that frying pan. And no. And that's what they call scarcity, right? And then they end up arguing over that frying pan. And then the Washichu is sitting there and they're watching them. Say, look, we can get them to fight. Watch. Just give them just give them just a little bit of something and watch. They'll fight over it. Watch. And then Crazy Horse said, well, I'd rather live on the land where it's all free from Grandmother Earth and we don't have to argue over anything, and we share everything, and we help each other as relatives. Ola kota, you know, that love and caring for each other. And he saw that way back then. He saw that. And so that's why, you know, to this day, you know, like right now, I've made, and people might say, "Wow, who is this guy? Did he give up everything?" I don't own a home right now. I live in my mama's home. I gave up a lot of stuff. You know, I try to limit what I have, and I'm always, you know, anything that could fit in the back of my Jeep. You know, that's what I'll have. You know, that you try not to take too much from the world, and and there's a meditation you could do with that too, where you go real quiet and you try not to take too much from the world anymore. And you just, even breathing just enough to live, and it'll show you things when you do that, when you try to not take too much from the world. And so there's a powerful thing that I think Crazy Horse left us. And there's not too many crazy people crazy like me that are actually trying to do it, you know, trying to live it. And it's like, I don't want our way of life to be forgotten and be overcome, overswept with the world that we're living in. So I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share all of it here. Yeah. And any questions or anything, or any, I'm always open.
I'm really glad that you got to come on and share with us. It's always good to learn. I just had one thing though. It's crick, not creek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I like what you made a statement that I really appreciate. I see it in a Dakota way. I like that. That's pretty deep and pretty thought provoking. But just mega appreciation for you to come on, Jace. I wish you could come on again. You have a lot of knowledge, and it's really good to listen and to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy to share anything. Because, you know, I've been down there, and there was a young guy that they told me when, because I spoke at a lot of the schools there in Pine Ridge, and one guy kind of quietly came up to me and told me about him getting, you know, family violence, and he had suffered some pretty intense family there, and he was from Pine Ridge, and I've never forgot him, you know, and it's little guys like that that are driving me to do what I'm doing. And like, I really like, you know, everybody's saying, everybody says this, it's up to our elders to make the change. It's up to our leaders to make the change. I think it's the little people that are going to make the change. And it's like, it's me that's going to make the change. And it's going to be you that makes the change. It's going to be us that makes the change. We have to do these things, and the only thing that, like, if we all had $1 trillion and we all had off-grid housing capabilities, we wouldn't be going through a lot of these things that we would have been out of this system a long time ago. And I think that's kind of like one of the things that we're working towards right now is not being so you know, there's a kushi that she'll say ichazu. Don't be ichazuing. She used to say, don't be begging. You know, don't be a beggar. You know, Dakota, they didn't like that up here. So they didn't. You had to take care of yourself. That was, and that comes from Buffalo Calf Pipe women too. You know, one must be responsible within the nation's hoop. That's what she said, right? And so that means we have to be responsible for ourselves, and I believe how we do that what she is basically saying is self-sustaining, self-government. That's what she was telling us in all aspects, and so I believe in sovereignty, but I believe that Chanupa. I believe that the Chanupa is is your ticket to spiritual sovereignty. That's what I believe. I believe that's what the Chanupa is. It's a ticket to spiritual sovereignty, because not every person that you meet that claims spiritual is going to be speaking truly on the Creator's behalf. A lot of times there might be a little bit of a bias towards certain beliefs, certain ideas that might take you off your path. It may not, or it may. And that might be dangerous for you. But if you have access to a pipe, or if you have access to somebody that has a pipe and you can give them tobacco and a little offering, maybe feed them, and then have them load the pipe and you smoke from that, then your ancestors will tell you. Your grandmas. And this is, if we believe in historical trauma, if we believe in that, then we have to believe in historical love as well. And so that would mean that there's love inside of us from our ancestors from way back. Genetic blood memory of love that still exists within us. That's why they can't destroy us, because our bloodline is still strong and well. And somewhere a long time ago, our great Chi long ago prayed for her bloodline by blessing herself in the waters of a sacred pond, and healed her bloodline, and that affects you today. And so that's why I was saying, nobody can say, "Oh, I'm just deadly, I'm just awesome, I'm just wicked," because you're only deadly, awesome, wicked because somebody in your bloodline prayed for your bloodline. So that, and it's up to you to keep that going. Nobody just wakes up deadly, awesome. Nobody wakes up just it's a prayer from somebody. And so keep it going. This thing, sunlight.
You just one of the things that my grandfather used to say to us as his grandchildren or whatever is like everything that you're talking about, and I really appreciate that, because sometimes I'm with my siblings and my tiwahe, and how we know this to be, sometimes we feel like we're alone in it. So it's really good to hear you talk about it, because it's the same in how we were brought up in it. And my grandpa was really strict about it, strict in a way that you have respect and you have love and you show it and you take care of these things. And he also taught us, like, the Creator gave you hands, feet, legs, and a brain to use and create. And so you take care of yourself is what he's always told us. And then we take care of each other. He didn't want us to be dependent, didn't want us to live on assistance. He didn't want that. He wanted us to know how to take care of ourselves. And so my family were like that. And sometimes it's really hard because it's isolating, because we might get criticized for it because this is how we are. So that, like where you said about Nawizi, like maybe other families might be like that towards us, because we take care of ourselves and we take care of each other and we help others too. But we really try to live like our grandpa told us, this is what you do. And we were raised Dakota. My grandma and grandpa are over there in Flandreau, and that's pretty much we're grounded in. My mother is enrolled Lakota, so that's why we're Lakota, because we go to our mother's band. And so it's always funny. I always just tell the story about how everyone would say, go back to your people. And so I fought to be Lakota almost all my life. And then as I grew older, I realized that I'm Dakota. So okay, I'll go back. And there's nothing wrong with it, being like that. So you really helped me this morning. You helped me process some things that have been bothering me, and to appreciate. And so maybe my grandpa was speaking through you to me today. So I wanted to thank you for that, and I too hope you will be willing to come back and visit more, because I think these are conversations that probably need to happen more than anything. So, Wokla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wash they do. You ever hear people after you're done talking, they'll say, "I agree with everything you said," and then they'll wreck it, but they'll say, "But."
Yeah.
But.
But you didn't say it this way, or yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've said too is our grandpas were masters of communication. They all had a master's degree of communication, and that's the gift that we have as our Dakota people, and that's the main thing. I think everybody needs a master's degree, and it should be taught in every curriculum or communication, because I think a lot of people know what I know, but I'm just practice communicating it in a certain way. And that's really my goal, is to teach our people to communicate what's going on. Because can you imagine if you're going through a lot, but you can't even communicate it, or people are not equipped to communicate with you in the right way, in a healthy way. And so that's one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, is communication. And I wanted to start a podcast on that one and talk about communication, because I think the 90% of the arguments that we have and between families now are just a matter of communication. And by the way, those people that I believe that are Nawizi, because maybe there's somebody listening right now that has a problem with Nawizi. I don't think anybody wakes up and say, "Hey, I want to be Nawizi." Nobody chooses that. It's kind of like a symptom or like a sickness that you have no control over. And it comes from counting other people's blessings other than your own. That's what happens. So the moment you start looking at the blessings that everybody has and comparing yourself to another, you'll start to get Nawizi. Like, oh man, this person has this and that, and I don't have this, and they got this and that, and I don't. Nobody ever gave me that. I never had no grandma to help me, like all this kind of stuff. That's the Nawizi. And so I always tell family, it's okay to feel Nawizi, but if you feel that, understand that it's you're not counting the gifts that you have in your life. So I just wanted to say about our Nawizi chantes, how we can get. I felt Nawizi before lots of times. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm be excited to come back again soon.
I might dig up some Canada stories or something. Might be able to make that reconnection.
Right. I have a lot of stories to share. My told history of how we got into Canada, and I think if that story was to ever hit mainstream, it would change history. Some of the stories that my uncle shared, because the stories we have are magical, right? They're magical because they had magic. Our grandpas, they had power. Grandmas, they had that, and so some of the stories, I think, if it was mainstream, then society would have no choice but to believe in magic again. They would have no choice because it was real, and there's a magical world out there, and that's what I think our people are missing. That they're missing that world, that magic. We miss the magic. Yeah. All right. Is that good? Is there comments on here? Is everybody? How many people are watching? I don't even know here.
I can't unmute.
Oh.
My mute got stuck. Sorry.
Yeah.
You have a lot of good feedback, Jace, as far as respect for the X, the whole is small in between the DNA. Great Grandma Blue Horse hung out at Crazy Horse's camp. I learned his eyes were prominent in the story. Thank you for sharing. That was good. That's why I sent LGP to the White House and said, give me my data and tool to manage. They hacked me and the fight was on.
But speaking of telomeres, by the way, or speaking of DNA, on the edge of your DNA, you have something what's called telomeres. So this is one of the things, Dakota law, or the law of the Chanupa, states that one must seek knowledge, woksape. And when you seek woksape, what it does is it broadens your opportunities, it broadens your horizons, it gives you the power of more choices. The more you learn, the more choices you have. And so that's why they say power is knowledge. And the more choices you have, the means the more you're in control. And so Dakota law, the Chanupa, talks about woksape, seeking knowledge. And so that's what we're supposed to do. And then what that does is it helps branch out your brain neurons, which is similar to the Sundance tree. Hey, all the choices, the branches breaking off. Ksa means to separate, like that. Ksa, like that. Woksa, so knowledge. And so seeking knowledge, and it's all about expanding the mind. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to share it. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, that's real cool. Yeah, I know where I was going with that. On the end of the DNA, there's telomeres. So there's these three little things like that, and they're like little sticks that come out. And what that is it protects your DNA. It protects your DNA. And then so the moment they're damaged, and so they get shorter and shorter. And the moment your DNA starts to get damaged, that's when you see the onslaught of cancer, diabetes, sicknesses, all the stuff that we're seeing. And what damages those telomeres is continual stress. So if I looked at you and I said, I heard some gossip about you, some gappies, you know what they said? Well, what I'm actually doing by me doing that is I'm shortening your life just by a little bit. And so that in a prolonged daily like that is not good. Like somebody might kidnap you. That weird, fearful feeling daily damages the telomeres. But the good thing about that is peace and love and relaxation, letting go of yesterday, which is called wochekia, by the way, another law of the Chanupa, letting go of yesterday. If you do that, then those telomeres can actually get repaired and you can prolong your life. And so no stress. Yeah. Or healthy stress should be good. Yeah.
Well, again, Chase, we'd like to thank you for spending the morning with us. I mean, you're getting raves in the comments, so you might want to read that, or you might not, because your ego might get like that. You might be. Yeah. You can't even get out of your house because your head's so big you just get stuck in the door.
Yeah. Somebody will bring you up and humiliate.
Yeah. We sure appreciate it. I know I do. I mean, as I said a little while ago about like listening to you and some things for me, and I'm sure other people have felt the same. I've never met you, so I'm glad to meet you. I have relatives in Canada that I never know either, so I'll be anxious to hear the stories. And I've always wanted to go up there, because my Mini Tonka, Charlie Mini Tonka, he was actually from up there, and then he married my one of my unchis, and then they traveled back and forth from Canada to Minnesota all the time back in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, end of 1800s or whatever. So I'd be very interested to hear those stories because I don't know them. So thank you.
Yeah. I'll be trying to borrow money from you if I find out I'm related.
Yeah, I might borrow from you. I will swap. We'll swap. Okay, so We just want to end the show today. Our guest was Jace Pratt. He's from Sioux Valley, Manitoba, Canada. He's Dakota. We didn't get to his band, what his band of Dakota was. I think he was kind of saying something about he's from the All It band of Dakota or something like that in Canada. The Cho Snaz band of Canada of Dakota people.
Oh yeah, if anybody wants to know, Bedewa Kantu. That's my Ukang was his the +2. Shakpe was his brother, but the other one they call him Holy Light, or they used to call him Medicine Bottle.
Yeah.
Killed after the 38, the +2. Just down the road of here, about a mile. This was his community, so that's or a few miles over this way. The Dakota community called Sioux Village. That was Wakan Ojanjans, Doshpai, there. Yeah.
So we'll see you guys again on Wednesday night. I think our show is, or we would be interviewing. Are we interviewing Julie? Are we just? Okay, so we'll probably try not to stress people out and shorten your DNA life. So tune in on Wednesday. We'll probably be talking about that ugly tribal council stuff. So Toksa.